Hi, I'm Julianne Nicholson, and you're listening to In Her Words.
Everyone has a story. Welcome to In Her Words, a podcast from women in entertainment where female creatives and allies share their stories in their own words.
This is a dedicated space centered on how to harness creativity for inspiring and impactful projects in the ever-changing landscape of entertainment.
I'm Renee Rossi.
I'm Gretchen McCourt.
And this is In Her Words.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to In Her Words. As you guys know, everyone is watching and talking about Paradise right now. We are so excited to have Julianne Nicholson on the show today. She's talking about her career and how this amazing project came to her. We know you're going to love this conversation.
Hi, guys. Hi.
Hi.
It is so nice to meet you.
It is so nice to meet you.
That's so nice. Thank you very much.
Thanks for being here. Where are you in the world today? I know today's is a premiere of a project for you. So are you in the U.S.?
No, I'm actually in the UK.
Okay.
I was in Los Angeles for a few weeks, and then I just got back here this weekend. So I'm in my son's study, which needs a reno. It's the place where I have a desk, and nobody's gonna be in here with me.
Renee hijacked her son's gaming desk
area
for podcasting.
He's at that age where he just grew out of it, so I took it over.
Right. But what's that behind you though?
It's just Foxwood. It's like
I love
Foxwood.
But is that a real living thing?
It's physically, yes. It's not like it's not living. It's just like plastic boxwood.
Okay. And that was what your son had in his games room?
No, it just, I took it over.
He wasn't. No. Okay.
I've done the run out.
Yes.
I did the run out.
You're getting decorating ideas.
Yes.
You thought this was
like
an entertainment podcast, Julianne,
with
but
boxwood.
It's really a decorating podcast.
By the way, I'm here for that one as well. So all good.
So Julianne, where in England are you? My husband's from England. So
I'm in Hampshire, like
Okay.
2 hours south of London.
Okay. He's Yorkshire, so north.
Okay, other direction.
My in-laws have been here we're here for about 2.5 weeks. So, and they just flew back. So into snow, but
where are you?
I love going.
Where are you?
I'm currently in New Jersey.
Nice. Cool. Chilly.
Yeah.
Very chilly, but not as cool.
Right.
How is it career-wise living outside the U.S.? You've been there for how long? Did you say 3 years?
About 2.5 years now. Yeah. It's, I mean, honestly, as an actor, you're never working down the street anyway.
Right.
It's so rare for that to happen. And so, it's still like a work in progress. It's still figuring it out, but it does mean time away. But, I did Paradise last year, and I did a show for the BBC right before that filmed in Cardiff. So I would be home every weekend. And now I haven't worked since July because now it's time to be home.
Right.
Actually, I was just talking about that with my husband and my daughter tonight. My son was still at school, and we were talking about a time when the kids had a hard time. Oh, it was like literally a 2-week period in summer of 2019. So it was like hard times go. It wasn't that bad, but we were just sort of talking about what that felt like and how that comes up. And my daughter said, and it was so nice to hear, like, even though we have to go away from time to time, she would much rather this be the case than doing a job where I had to be away every single day from 9 to 6 or, So I was like, interesting. We'd never had sort of that breakdown. And I agree, because I've been here since July, and actually I'm not really in the like entertainment life, entertainment industry life so much, so it's been like home. It's really very much home time, which is nice.
Yeah, that's very insightful of her to kind of compare the two.
She's a deep thinker.
Yeah. That's no, I like that. I like that. So you have Paradise, which you mentioned. It's a great new project on Hulu that is opening with an amazing cast. We want to talk about that and talk about that in detail. But I'm very curious. I was reading, about, you growing up in the Boston area and starting out as a model, and so many people that listen to our podcast are um, people just starting out in their careers and looking whether they want to be in front of the camera, behind the camera, and we really like to explore that non-linear path to get to where you are today. So can you talk a little bit about, what you wanted to be, what you thought, and kind of how your career path came to be?
Sure. I love that idea of the nonlinear path, especially as a parent of teenage children. And we're now thinking about college and what comes after that, what comes after that. And I have to remind myself and tell them, I don't think they're really listening that much yet, but like there are any number of ways to figure out or to get into the job that you think you want to do that you haven't even thought of yet. So I love that idea. I grew up in two places. My dad outside of Boston, and my mom lived in Western Mass. So I went back and forth between them. And I always thought I wanted to be an actor after doing like little elementary school plays. It just so happened the school I went to, Montague Center School, they took real care with their younger grades, even first, second, third grade, to put on like proper productions with like real acting and like storylines. They were short, but like they were effective. And I remember just feeling like that was the most fun I had at school. Cut to the next time I auditioned for a play, I was in high school. They had just started a drama club. I was so excited to audition. This was going to be my path to the big time. And I did not get a role. They offered me stage manager. And I was like, you can take that and shove it. Thank you very much. And I'm going to, again, put this on pause for another like 8 years, and then I'll come back again. So I was, basically I started modeling, sort of fell into that. And was with a small agency in Boston. And then I was going to go to UMass Amherst, and I thought I'd like to defer for a year and try modeling. They were going to send me to New York and maybe Europe, but I was like, yes, New York. And I always wanted to go to New York because for me, those like 80s movies, they all took place in New York. They were also romantic and fast paced, and everybody was, and that felt like the place to be. For me, it was never about going to Los Angeles. It was like New York felt like I guess because I'm an East Coast girl, it's closer. Yeah. And I just liked the sort of energy of it and the culture of it. And it was close.
Were you thinking more stage acting at the time, or were you?
No. It was always sort of mostly filmed work. But so I knew I just wanted to get to New York. And so that felt like because that felt like closer to my, little dream. But within, I would say, I moved to New York with another model, and within about 6 months, we'd both had enough. And so we quit and just waitressed for a long time. And I would occasionally take acting classes at studios around the city, trying to find one that I clicked with. And I kept not finding that one. And so I started school at Hunter College. When I was 22, I was waitressing at night and paid for myself to go to school. And then when I was 24, I thought, okay, I have to either try this or give up this dream and figure out what I am going to do. Waitressing in New York in the 90s, when you were like 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, was amazing. Around 22, 23, you're like, I don't know. This is getting less cute. People could still smoke then. I was like, it smells disgusting. Like my hours were all off. It wasn't like the healthiest lifestyle. So I met this teacher named Sheila Gray through my then boyfriend, and then a couple of other people that would come into the restaurant. And I just, from the first moment with her, she used sort of sense memory and sort of pulling from your own life in your acting, in your work. And then I just started taking classes with her and did that for about, and met a manager. Also through like someone who was like a busboy at the restaurant that I worked with, and also through the other restaurant that I worked at. And she took me on as a sort of like, let's see how this goes. I'd never auditioned for anything or done anything yet. And so then in the 90s, I think it might be a little different now, but you could get little roles in little movies, and you could get an episode of Law and Order, you know, or gosh, what else was going on? Della Ventura, or, you know, all these shows. And so I would waitress to make money, and I just started doing small roles, and they started getting bigger and bigger. And then when I was 28, I could quit. But really, it's just about like staying on the path, pushing through. You just got to keep going.
No, that is so. Did you when you got to that point where you were like, okay, if this doesn't happen quick, I'm going to have to do something else. Did you have something else in mind?
Well, I was going to school at Hunter, and I was just taking basically anything that interested me, and most of those were in sort of French and anthropology and sociology, and so it was sort of looking like that was the path I know, which is like I never would have expected. I know, yeah. But it wasn't thought out. It was just like I always believe, like, you know, you just keep following your interests and keep you know, it's basically like making decisions as they come, right? That's how you make your life, whether it's your career or your partner or where you live. And so then it just but when I started acting, I said I'm going to do this for 5 years.
Okay.
Oh, interesting.
Like take classes, try to get an agent, do this.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it for 5 years, and at 5 years, I will evaluate and see if I want to give it another 5 years, or if that feels like enough. But I didn't ever think that it would be immediate, and I was right.
Is anyone else in your family creative? Or is anyone else in the business, or writers, actors?
No, not at all.
Are your kids interested or no?
No, they love doing school plays. They're much more interested in music. They're very musical. My mom has a beautiful voice. My mother and stepfather used to always sing, and my dad listened to music. So music was always in my life, but never as a never to perform it, just more as an appreciator. But no, I'm trying to. There's no one. There are no one who makes a living at our art.
At this type of art.
That art.
Yeah. You choose interesting roles, you know, in terms of going everything from what Paradise coming out, but Janet Planet, Dope Girls, Mare of Easttown. Yeah, Easttown. I'm like, wait a minute.
No, right. When you said, well, now I'm like, wait, I was just going to say confirm, and then I was like, wait, is that it? Yeah, Mare of Easttown. You have to see the whole thing, otherwise I don't know what the words are.
Right. You know, how do you choose your roles? It's like you take on roles that have a lot of depth. What attracts you to some of these roles?
That's so nice. Thank you. I honestly, it's like gut. It's just material. It's literally like, do I respond to this? Does this make sense to me? Does this feel valuable to put into the world? Does this feel worth my time? And I think I just have a particular taste, and I'm fortunate enough now that those come across my desk enough.
Yeah.
I would say.
Are there? I read a couple of interviews, and you talking about the, you know. So I think the interview asked about complex families and complex, you know, relationships. Is that something that is, you know, I mean, from Marilyn Monroe to, you know, to the even the sweetness of Janet Planet, and is that something that's interesting to you? Is really kind of real family situations and real characters in families?
Yeah, I only want to see real. I'm only interested in, I mean, that's not true. I'm not only interested in that, but it's what I'm usually drawn towards. Exploring something that feels authentic to me. Not to say it's my experience, but something that registers to me as being an authentic character or story or situation. You know, it's funny. I'm talking about this film now that I was gonna maybe still will do, cast change, and it's suddenly like it looks different to me now. And this has happened before. This happens, and it's just like it's had me really thinking recently about things that I respond to. and
Interesting.
where I want to spend my time. I'm also, I mean, it's not always that way. It's, sometimes you have to work to also like, put your kids through school.
Right, right.
Small
Do
things.
you have a favorite? Do you have a favorite role that you've played?
Most recently, it would be Janet Planet, because that was just
Yeah.
such a special experience, and was where I lived from when I was 7 to 11, and where I visited and still would go back, and where I was a camp counselor, and so it was very evocative. I hadn't been back in 30 years, so to go back
Oh my
and
gosh. Oh wow.
tell that story in that place set in the early 90s was like huge every day. Like driving those streets, breathing that air, being with Annie Baker, who was just brilliant, weirdo, beautiful mind. Like it was just bliss.
Now, was Annie from that area also?
Yeah.
That's what I thought. When I was reading some, I was like, wait, is she from here also? So that's amazing that you both got to relive that
Yeah.
space.
But we were also talking at dinner tonight. I can't remember about my daughter's homework. I can't remember the two scientists that said like the humans have this propensity towards the recency, like, so that made me Janet, because that was like the most recent thing.
When you read the script for Mare of Easttown, did you know it was going to be as special as it was, and that your role, and I mean just everyone, just how amazing that project was going to be, and how award centric it was going to be? Did you get that feeling?
I got the feeling that it was a special script, and I've always loved Kate Winslet. I think she's a magical actor. And she was down the line, telling me that all those things were going to be the case. So I sort of felt like she had a good gauge. But no, I don't know that anyone could have anticipated how deeply everyone took that show into their hearts. I think that's like a timing thing too. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes it's like it's the right show at the right moment, and so it just like all the things came together. But that's so rare. So I thought it would be a great show. Just because of the people who were involved, and I thought Brad Inglesby just wrote such a beautiful script. But it like definitely exceeded my expectations. It was really a beautiful feeling how much people loved it.
Yeah, it was fantastic, and one of those that stays with you. I love something that I watch that I can think about in such detail even years later. I think that that really makes something a special project. So tell us about how Paradise came about and what attracted, because that's a different, we haven't seen it all, it just comes out. But what attracted you to that role? And that's a little bit different of a role, I guess, maybe Law and Order-ish role, but what attracted you to that role?
So I was excited to meet with Dan Fogelman, the writer. And I was sent the first 4 episodes. And just from the first episode, I just thought it just drew this completely fascinating world that was very unlike anything I'd done before. So that's something else that's exciting to me, to try to do something different. And so the first episode, they sort of set up what the story is going to be. The president's murdered. Who did it? Right? That's what we think. We're going to get to know these people. We're going to find out who killed the president. And then immediately at the end of the first episode, you said you've seen any of them or no?
No, right. We haven't.
But at the end of the first episode, there's like there's things are revealed that you are not expecting. And then it goes on from there. And I gasped at the end of the first episode, and then proceeded to do that pretty much every episode after. And I don't have much to do in the first episode, but Dan told me a little bit of who the character was. He didn't tell me secret. I had to read those for myself. But the second episode is basically my character's backstory. And I just thought that it was a beautiful, first of all, so smart of Dan to let me know, the actor, like what this woman has gone through, and the audience, because it just gives people a little bit more understanding of who she is and where she's coming from. And it was just a beautiful arc of this woman's life, who starts off as this excited young woman at the beginning of her career and marriage and family. And it just sort of shows us, life is hard, even for the lucky ones. And it can wear you down or wear you out. It's not the only part, but she goes through something major that she can't recover from. And then basically every decision she makes is from that place for the rest of her life.
Interesting.
So no big deal.
Sounds very light.
Yeah, exactly. The thing about the show is actually like, it's super fun. Like that's what we wanted to do. It's not supposed to be heavy. It's like, it's a ride. It's entertaining. It's like, bring your friends, shout at the TV. What? Like, and that felt fun to me. It doesn't have to be like deep, complex. Like these things are happening. They go back in time for many of the characters' lives. And I love that, getting to know them in that way, to see why they are who they are in our present story. But it's a fun one.
Yeah, it comes across as a really fun ride. Definitely as that. And the cast, oh my gosh.
It's a great cast.
I mean, Sterling K. Brown and James Marsden. Yeah, to digress for a second, did you see American Fiction? Was it American Fiction? Yeah, out last year with Sterling. His performance in that, talk about something that stays with you. Oh my God.
Right.
I think this is the first thing since then that I'm seeing him in. I think.
I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't know. He works all the time now. He is so
right. I could have missed something.
I saw him and he was like, "Oh, I was just in Paris and I was in Australia and I'm going to do this," like, which is so great and well deserved. I've been a fan of his for a long time, and so it was thrilling. That was a big part of the draw too. When you get a script and you already know that Sterling's Secret Service and James is the president, it's already more interesting.
Right. But yeah, when I started seeing all the advertising out of it, I was like, hey, it's the last time I saw Sterling Brown. I think it was American Fiction. So good. That's it looks fantastic. We're excited for everyone to see it.
Thank you.
Julianne, in terms of, you do a lot of different projects, and I saw, Dope Girls with BBC and so forth. What has your experience been in terms of whether it be work across the pond, audiences? Do you ever choose your work based on reaching different types of audiences? Just because I know some of it won't get to be vice versa, just based on.
I don't. No, I've never thought about
or your experiences with different audiences.
What's that?
Or your different experiences with different audiences.
I don't often think about audiences. It's more about the story.
Yeah.
And then who's involved. And then can it work for my life? Like, can I do it? Timing. That's so many. Is it going to pay me or not? Like, there's so many different.
There's so many other elements.
There's so many boxes to tick, and like it's like the combination. Each one, if it does the right combination, then I can say yes.
Yeah, I was just curious, just because I feel like UK shows and UK content is having such a moment in the States right now. In terms of reach and production moving to the UK. There's just so much in terms of. That you're seeing and the content exposure, in terms of if you felt any of that.
Well, it's exciting to me to work in a new place for sure. And I guess that would be about the audience. And I do think you're right. They're doing such interesting shows here, and the business is expanding here. And, so for me, I did a film. Some of my most fun filming experiences were when I filmed a movie in Colombia and when I filmed in Buenos Aires. Like, to go somewhere new and get to explore a place through work is the best. It's so exciting. Yeah. So to that end, yes, I would say, because it introduces me to a new audience, which also hopefully includes filmmakers and, writers and directors that I then get to work with a different outlook, mindset, location.
Do you prefer television or film at this point?
I like them both.
No preference?
For me, it's like the same kind of acting, so it really depends on the story and earning a living.
Yeah, I was just curious, just because you when you look at something like Law and Order, where it's being released differently than say Netflix, where people binge. I wasn't sure how, what was your experience in terms of, the emerging of these platforms and that feeling, from doing something on it more, I want to say cadence differently.
Yeah. Well, it was, gosh, it's changed quite a bit.
So much. Mm-hmm. Especially in terms of, sometimes you just sit down. It's like we were talking to a few of our other, actors and actresses that we've had on, and they talk a little bit about, with Netflix, you sit there and you film the whole, like the whole enchilada in one shot, versus when you're on something like a Law and Order, where it's more, I'm working for 6 months just based on the script writing and how the episodes are developed, things like that. So I was just curious to know what your experience has been. And
I feel like, well, I mean, honestly, every show is different, because you still, I got, like, for instance, you get this, I guess, most of them, if you're doing like a shorter season, like 8 episodes, like Paradise, then you get them all before you start filming. Whereas like episodic, like Law and Order was like a week to the week thing. I mean, I felt so lucky to have that job. I loved filming in New York. I was pregnant with both of my kids on that show. Dick Wolf was great to me. Like, it was like a family. Mm-hmm. It wasn't the material I wanted to do for a long time.
Yeah.
But Dick was like, all right, go have a life. Enjoy. What do you. It doesn't matter. I don't matter in that show. Like, he can get any number of people. You know what I mean? It worked. Yeah. All good. And then I worked with him on the Edie Falco, and she did the Law and Order Menendez. Like, it was a great couple of years, like, doing that. And I feel each show is different. Each has its own way of working. And I guess if you can, I keep coming back to like it being a job also, but it depends on, you used to do 20 episodes.
Right.
Now you're doing 8 episodes. So for many people, that's not going to cut it. Mm-hmm. When you do, have a family and so I've been really lucky to be able to continue doing the work that I want to do and be able to,
balance that. Yeah.
Yeah.
How long did it take? Did you guys film Paradise?
It was only 4 months.
Okay. So, which
is like, doesn't feel that long to me for 8 episodes, for as big as our show is, especially how big it gets towards the end. And, I got there, and then my kids came for 2 weeks for their Easter break. And then I went home a couple times. Then we all met in New York because Janet Planet was opening. So, I mean, we make the best of it. You just sort of figure it out each time. Like, I'm always begging people, can you condense my dates? Like,
right.
I'm really happy to be here, but can I go home? And people are usually pretty. Jan was very sympathetic to that, even when we first spoke. Like, just being mindful of that. I don't live in LA, so trying to be sensitive around that, and they were.
That has to be more common now. It feels like we just talk to so many people that don't live in LA or don't live, in, where obviously where it's filming. Like you said, being an actor, it's not a job down the street.
No,
it's always 99% of the time
they have
always
75
travel.
million other things they're thinking about.
Yeah, all right. Then
like locations and that person's schedule and that one's this and that. It's just so it's like you have to kind of get in early and preserve certain days, and then it's like wing and a prayer. And when it works, great, and when it doesn't, don't get too mad. Like. You got to roll with it at a certain point also, which I'm better and worse at depending on the day.
Are there any genres you want to explore as you look towards your next roles?
Yeah, I would like, these are sort of vague. I have to get more specific. I was thinking like it would be fun to do like a Western, like a really cool Western would be fun. Those beautiful old, like, prairies and fields and horseback. I think it's so beautiful, those wide open spaces. But also it'd be fun to do something really flashy and glamorous, which I've been like resisting has not interested me for like 30 years. And suddenly this year I was like, maybe makeup. Maybe hair.
We're gonna see some sequins.
Exactly. Maybe a little flash. Maybe it's not, honestly, it's just like doing something different. But if I were to like try to make my little manifest board, it would definitely be something a bit more like head turning. Coming soon. I don't know what that's going to look like, but I'm starting to think like it'd be fun to do, like, not just not play maybe the person that you would like, that you might recognize. Do something different.
Interesting. That's fun.
Yeah.
Do you for, like we said, we have a lot of people, early in their career, mid. How have you navigated, with working with the same group of people, or kind of keep going back to the same group? You said you've mentioned a couple of people that you've had the opportunity to work with multiple times, or do you like when somebody new comes along, or a new writer, a new producer, a new director, like a whole new creative group reaches out to you? Is that interesting to you?
Yeah. I mean, first of all, I love seeing loyalty. Like, I love seeing people who continue to work together again and again. I love that, because you just have a shorthand. You just have a way of speaking and understanding. And that to me is exciting. I would say it depends but I love to work with people a second time. It's fun, as I say, when you already know each other. I would only work with someone a second time if I loved working with them. So then that's already in place. But it is fun also to discover new people, new talents, new voices, new ways of looking at things. It's really, it's one of the great things about the job, is that it's different every time.
When you started, you said, I loved your question about, do people even have that opportunity anymore to do like little projects and still wait tables and do, I think that's such an interesting question on how everything has changed. Oh wait, now I forgot my question.
Been there.
Going for.
It'll come back. Don't sweat it. I was having class last week. Thank God Sarah Shahi was sitting next to me, because I'd be like, blah, blah. What was the question?
Right. I'm like, wait a second. What was I was going to ask her something about going when you were talking about just starting. Oh, what like when you first got on your big production, whether like was a film or a series, do you remember what your biggest surprises were, or what was so unexpected when you finally got to that all-encompassing working on a full feature film or project?
Oh my God, it was so exciting. It was so exciting. I mean, it was so fun. It was so fun to be like, being at the beginning of the adventure. It's so exciting. I would say to your people, like, enjoy it, because you're going to look back on this time, even when it's hard. You didn't get that job. This didn't work out. It's okay. It's okay. Like, you don't know what it's supposed to look like. Like, don't sweat the small stuff. Like, you look back and it will make more sense. But I used to love even like going to an audition, if I would go to LA for like pilot season, which I did a few times, and, getting a pass to drive onto the Paramount lot, to like be running late and be lost and like looking for the casting. And then you go and there's like 12 other people that look like versions of you. But I look back at it now with such fondness. And working, I just felt like pinching myself that I actually got to do it, like that it was happening. The biggest surprise, like the very first filming job I did was a movie called Curtain Call with Michael Caine and Maggie Smith and James Spader and Polly Walker. And the first day, my scene was with Michael Caine and Maggie Smith and James Spader, and they were like, okay, rolling. It was Peter Yates was the director, who did like Bullet and a ton of like cool films, and Sven Nykvist was his DP. It was like big deal names. Yeah. They were both sort of towards the end of their careers, but I was just like, oh my God. And they're like, okay, rolling, action. And like, I started speaking 2 seconds and they said, cut. And I was like, oh my God. And they said, Julianne, are you on your mark? And I was like, Mark? What's wrong with Mark? Like, is there a little piece of tape on the floor? And I was like, oh yeah. They're like, yeah, that's where you need to stand. So it's like a learning process, like, and give yourself a break and it will all get easier.
Thank you so much for being here. I want to ask you one quick last question that we love to ask everybody. What are you watching? What are you reading? Is there anything right now that you're loving that you want to share with us?
I just finished reading a book by a war correspondent named Jane Ferguson, and now I'm blanking on the name.
We're going to look it up for you.
Yeah, Jane Ferguson, who's amazing. Incredible. It was, you know what would be great for this podcast, actually, and people sort of starting in different worlds, because it's basically her story starting in Ireland, and then her basically beating her own path to journalism and war correspondence. Much of her early work was freelance, so she did put herself in all these insane situations. And it's a really interesting little walk through the history of the Middle East and U.S. involvement, and I couldn't put it down. I thought it was fascinating.
Oh, awesome! We have a little book newsletter that goes out, so we're going to get the title and add that to it.
Yeah. No Ordinary Assignment.
You got it. You got it. No Ordinary Assignment. All right, we will look it up.
And my daughter and I watch RuPaul's Drag Race, so we are right now enjoying season 17. We are obsessed with.
We love it. We get so many like reality TV, like escapism. I love it. I love it.
What did I feel like we also just, and Hacks. Love Hacks.
So
obsessed.
Good. Yeah. Oh, so good. Julianne, it was so nice meeting you. Thank you for doing this. I know it's a late night there, so go tuck everyone into bed and have a great night.
My pleasure. Nice talking with you.
Thank you. Nice to meet you. All right. Bye-bye. Okay.